Paradox Rift is here, and we got to talk about some really cool deck lists. Welcome to Dark Bear Dojo. I am Nick, and today we're going to be looking at some really cool, and more specifically, 5 Paradox Rift deck lists. These are deck lists that have been created and used over in Japan. I have a link to where I found them in the video description, so please go check it out. And if you're in the mood to click stuff, you can always click subscribe and leave a like and a comment on this video, because those things tell YouTube this is a good channel and other people should watch it. I love Paradox Rift. It is such a fun set. It's fun to open, a ton of competitive cards, things that we can build a bunch of. So many different decks are a vibe. I mean, it's the beginning of a format, so it's always everything's up in the air for the first 2 weeks or so, and then it starts to settle. So we'll see how things shake up here in the western part of the world, but for now in Japan we got some interesting stuff, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. So we're going to start with what I think a lot of people consider to be one of the best decks in the Paradox Rift format, and that's going to be Chien with Iron Hands. Chien has an incredible ability, Chivalry Chill, which lets you search your deck for up to 2 water energies and put them into your hand. Hailblade for 2 water energies does 60 damage times the number of water energies that we discard from all of our Pokemon. So we could be hitting for a massive amount of damage with Hailblade. And I know you're thinking, Nick, how are we going to get all those energies attached to our Pokemon? The answer is Baxcalibur, which is a Pokemon I've grown to love after putting it on my Scarlet and Violet competitive VGC team. Super Cold lets you take as many water energies as you want from your hand and attach them to any of your Pokemon. That includes itself, that includes things that are not water types, which means Iron Hands. Amp you very much for a lightning and 3 colorless energies, does 120 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, you take an additional prize. So that means those pesky Cramorants that have 110 health are weak to lightning anyway, but still, Lugia V, I don't know, what else is weak to lightning? Sableye, Comfey, random single prizers. Our opponent puts a Bidoof, a Radiant Greninja, a Frigibax, anything like that into the active. You're going to be taking 2 prize cards off of it, thanks to Amp You very much. Incredible card. Also, we have 230 health, which is pretty good. We are weak to fighting for retreat cost, but we don't really care about that too much. Drapion V is another card. Wild Style, the attacks of this Pokemon's, the cost of this Pokemon's attack is 1 colorless less for each Fusion Strike, Rapid Strike, or Single Strike Pokemon our opponent has in play. That means Dynamic Tail can hit for, theoretically, free, depending on what we're playing against, which is great against Mew. So we use something like Chien to knock out the first Mew VMAX. We use Chien to knock out the first Mew VMAX, and then we just drop a Drapion, knock out the second Mew VMAX, and that's the game right there. So really, really cool. We can use Baxcalibur to power up Drapion, which means if we need to get it out of the active, if we just want to attack with it, whatever, right? We can do Dynamic Tail for 100, and it does 190 damage. We have to put 60 damage on one of our Pokemon. Now, if we put it on our Bidoof, Carefree Countenance says as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to it by attacks, both yours and your opponent's, which means we can use Dynamic Tail to hit for 190 and then put the 60 damage on the Bidoof, which you would think would KO, but it's actually protected by Carefree Countenance, so we don't actually have to put the damage anywhere. Really cool. Bibarel is one of the other reasons we play Bidoof, is because Industrious Incisors lets us draw until we have 5 cards in our hand. It's an incredible ability, especially after we use something like Superior Energy Retrieval, which requires us to discard 2 cards from our hand in order to play it. Ultra Ball requires us to discard 2 cards from our hand in order to play it. So we go ahead, discard a bunch of cards from our hand. Something like Superior Energy Retrieval, we fill our hand back up with water energies. We use Super Cold to put those energies into play. And then with the 1 or 2 cards left we have in hand, we can use something like Bibarel to draw until we have 5. It's very, very good. We have Radiant Greninja to discard an energy from our hand, draw 2 cards, a little bit of extra consistency. Manaphy protects our bench from things like Rapid Strike Urshifu. It's going to protect our bench from Garchomp EX and opposing Radiant Greninjas, because the last thing we want is for our opponent to just go ahead and knock out our 2 Frigibax or our Frigibax and Bidoof on the bench with a Radiant Greninja, because they were able to turbo out 7 cards into the Lost Zone, attach Mirage Gate or double Mirage Gate, Moonlight Shuriken, and then we basically lose the game. That would be really unfortunate. So Manaphy, very, very important. How do we get all these Pokemon into play? Battle VIP Pass lets us, we can only play it on the first turn of the game, but we can get 2 Pokemon and put them onto our bench. Nest Ball, basic Pokemon goes from our deck to the bench. Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, get any Pokemon you want. And Heavy Ball, take a basic Pokemon from our prize cards and replace it with Heavy Ball. Rare Candy is used to get our Frigibacks into Baxcalibur. Superior Energy Retrieval, discard 2 cards from our hand to get up to 4 water energies, or I guess 4 energies, from our discard into our hand. Super Rod, shuffle up to 3 energy, basic energies or Pokemon from our discard into our deck. Earthen Vessel, new card from Paradox Rift. Discard a card from your hand, search your deck for up to 2 energies and put them into your hand. Pokegear, find a supporter from the top 7 cards of your deck, put it into your hand. Escape Rope, you get to switch one of your bench Pokemon with the active, and your opponent does the same. They switch one of their bench Pokemon with their active. Your opponent chooses first. Counter Catcher, it's a reprint. You can only use this card if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. So it's basically Boss's Orders as an item card if we have more prize cards than our opponent. So if we're losing the game, we can use an item, which is Boss's Orders. Really, really cool. We have 5 supporters, and that is Irida, search your deck for a water Pokemon and an item. If we're going second and it's our first turn, we can get a water Pokemon plus something like Battle VIP Pass. Every other turn, we're probably going to be looking for either Baxcalibur, Rare Candy, or some water Pokemon Chien plus Superior Energy Retrieval. Likely going to be the case. We could get Counter Catcher with it, though, as well. And then we have Iono for a little bit of either very early game draw if our hand breaks, or late game disruption. Each player shuffles their hand, puts it to the bottom of the deck, and then they draw cards equal to the number of prize cards they have remaining. So we can go ahead, use Iono to get our opponent down to like 2 cards in their hand, 1 card in their hand, and then play something like Counter Catcher, or we can Counter Catcher, then Iono is probably the way that's going to go. So we bring up a Pokemon that our opponent does not want into the active, Iono them down to 1 or 2, and try to win the game like that. We do have 4 copies of Pokestop. Discard top 3 cards of your deck, and then recover any items that you discarded using Pokestop. Really interesting. Water energies, we got 8. We got 2 lightning energies because Iron Hands does require 1 lightning energy to use Ampy very much. We can use something like Irida, find Earthen Vessel, discard a card, from our hand, get the lightning energy. Then we go ahead, attach the lightning energy, and use Super Cold to power up the rest with water energies. And now we take that's kind of like the combo for Iron Hands. Otherwise, we're going to be using Chien to take the rest of our prizes. Really, really cool deck. Something that I have built personally. I think it's really good, and it's something I plan on playing. Another deck that's seeing a lot of success and a lot of hype, even though people were not very keen on this card when it was first revealed, is the Roaring Moon. Frenzy Gouging, take for 2 dark and a colorless. Your opponent's active Pokemon is just knocked out. Doesn't matter what their health is, doesn't matter what type of Pokemon, it's just knocked out, and that's really cool. But we we do 200 damage to ourselves in the process, so that's a little challenging. Calamity Storm for the same energy requirement does 100 damage, but if there's a stadium in play, we can choose to discard it to do an extra 120 damage. So we could be hitting for 220, which is really good. 220 is a pretty good number. On top of that, we have Brute Bonnet. You're like, Nick, something like Iron Hands or opposing Roaring Moons, they have 230 health, which means we can't KO them with the Calamity Storm if a stadium is in play. We only do 220. What are we going to do? Well, the answer is Brute Bonnet. Toxic Powder once there is in. If this Pokemon has an Ancient Booster Capsule energy attached, you may make both active Pokemon poisoned. Really cool. So we can go ahead, use something like, we don't really have a way to like search for tools, but we can get this copy of Ancient Booster Capsule energy, attach it to our Brute Bonnet, poison our opponent's active. Now, yeah, sure, we're poisoned too, but we're doing that extra 10 damage to guarantee the KO on a basic EX that has 230 health. Really cool. Good use of something like a Brute Bonnet. Also, we have Mew EX, which is going to, restart. Let's just draw until we have 3 cards in the hand. It's just a good card. We also can use Genome Hacking for 3 colorless energies. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks as this attack. we have more options to power up Mew EX in this version than some of the other Turbo. We can very easily attach for turn, and then the following turn, if something's knocked out, because Roaring Moon does 200 damage to itself, we can use the new supporter Mela. You can only play this card if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Attach a basic fire energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. If you do, draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So really, really good. That means if we have one energy on this Mew EX already, we can go Mela, attach a fire energy from the discard, draw until we have 6 cards, and then attach an energy from hand, and now this Mew EX is powered up, and it's pretty easy. It's not that hard to do. We can get fire energies into the discard with the use of Radiant Greninjas, concealed cards. We already talked about it. I'm going to not mention cards that we had already talked about just to save time. So Squawkabilly, Squawk and Seize, once during your turn. If it's your first turn, you can discard your hand and draw 6 cards. You can't use more than one Squawk and Seize. So, but it is also worth noting that it has the attack Motivate for a single colorless energy, does 20 damage, attach up to 2 basic energies from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So that means if we have some Roaring Moons in play, or like a Mew EX, that's another way we can get energies onto a Mew EX or onto a Roaring Moon without actually having to manually attach, which I think is really cool. We have Squover. Once during your turn, you may shuffle your hand and put it to the bottom of your deck. If you do put any cards on the bottom of your deck in this way, draw a card. So it's nice, I guess. It's just a way of being able to use something like Restart a little bit more effectively. We don't have Bibarel. Usually this is combo with Bibarel, but you know, still something. Pokegear, we talked about a lot of the Pokemon search options. Earthen Vessel, now we have Energy Lotto. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal an energy card you find there, put it into your hand. So this lets us, not guaranteed, but find a little bit easier something like Jet Energy, which allows us to get a Roaring Moon into the active if we have something like a Brute Bonnet, or we have a Roaring Moon in the active, we don't want it in the active anymore. We can go ahead, attach Jet Energy to one of our bench Pokemon and put that into the active, which is really nice. We got Trekking Shoes. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put that card into your hand. If you don't, discard that card and draw another card. Really cool. Worth noting that if you Trekking Shoes into a Trekking Shoes, you always keep the Trekking Shoes and play it because you'll be able to see one card further. Dark Patch, attach a basic Dark Energy from our discard pile to one of our bench Dark Pokemon, so we can go ahead and use that Greninja, use that Squawkabilly, something like the Ultra Ball to discard basic energies, so we can either motivate them, we can use Mela, and then we also have Dark Patch in order to start powering up our attackers. Cross Switcher we talked about, Professor Sada's Vitality. Choose up to 2 of your ancient Pokemon in play and attach a basic energy from your discard to each of them. If you attach an energy this way, draw 3 cards. So, really cool. That means we can attach a fire energy. If we only have a dark and a fire energy in the discard, we can attach one of each of them to our Roaring Moons or even our Brute Bonnet in play if we want. Brute Bonnet does have an attack, Rampaging Hammer, does 120. During the next turn we can't attack. It's for the same attack energy cost as the Roaring Moon 2 Dark and a Colorless. So we can Dark Patch, attach an energy for turn, and then Sada's Vitality or Mela, and now we're attacking with Brute Bonnet or Roaring Moon in a single turn. Very, very good. I'm a big fan of it. And then, of course, we do have Cycling Road. Each player may discard an energy card from their hand in order to draw a card. Worth noting, specifically basic energies. So something like Lugia would not be able to really utilize this card as much, even though some Lugia lists starting to throw 2 lightning energies in there and use Iron Hands because they can power it up extremely easy with the Archeops, the Primal Turbo. So discard a basic energy. We cannot discard Jet Energy. But there you go. That's the idea, is get your Pokemon to play and take easy prizes immediately with Roaring Moon through the help of something like Brute Bonnet, maybe Mew EX, the Greninja, the Squawkabilly, consistency, Squover, help you find that one extra card, draw an extra card at the end of the turn if you really, really have to dig, something like that. And there you go. I'm a big fan of Roaring Moon. Probably the deck I'm going to be playing moving forward. Another fantastic deck is Iron Valiant with Rapid Strike Urshifu, kind of like Rapid Strike box-ish thing. Iron Valiant has the Tachyon Bits ability. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active spot, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And the first thing that should shoot out to you, or you should notice immediately, is that we have a lot of switch cards. 4 switch cards, 4 escape routes, 4 switch cards. So now we have 12 different switch outs that doesn't include manual retreat, and we can retreat our Iron Valiant for free with the use of the future booster capsule energy. The future Pokemon this card is attached to has no retreat cost, and it's attached to 20 more damage. So we have essentially 13 free retreat options in this deck. That's almost a quarter of the deck. Almost a quarter of our deck, 25%, is just mobility, because we really want to be able to maximize the number of damage counters we can put onto our opponent's Pokemon with Iron Valiant. The reason is because we have Medicham. Medicham has the Yoga Loop attack, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then if it's knocked out by damage from Yoga Loop, you skip your opponent's entire turn and you take another turn. You can't use this effect more than 2 turns in a row, but really, really cool. So like, the way this goes is you start something that's not an Iron Valiant, I mean, hopefully, but if you do, whatever, you just go ahead, you switch card, escape rope, switch, you go Tachyon Bits, attach a Rapid Strike energy to the Medicham, and now a Yoga Loop, and that, I don't know, that's only 60 damage, so I don't know what has 60 damage. Have we seen anything that has 60 damage in here? That Squovit, that Frigibax, that Bidoof, those all have 60 damage. They're all going to be KO'd. If we do 3 Iron Valiant, Tachyon Bits, plus Medicham, now we're going to be able to hit in that 80 damage, so that means Sableye, Comfeys, Manaphy's. But because we're placing damage counters, it specifically says place 2 damage counters, Manaphy does not protect us from Tachyon Bits. It does not protect against Medicham V. So, Jirachi does, but, you know, anyway, that's something. The rest of this deck, Techno Radar, lets us discard a card from our hand, search a deck for up to 2 future Pokemon, put them into our hand. It's just another way of ensuring we get all these Iron Valiants in play. The Drapion, we're not really able to power it up like we were in the Chien POW version, but this is super useful against Mew VMAX, or Gardevoir, not really, mostly Mew, but still important to have. The other stuff, again, Battle VIP Pass, Heavy Ball, Nest Ball, Super Rod, Trekking Shoes. Now we start to get some other interesting cards. We have Forest Seal Stone, attach it to a Pokemon V, and we can search a deck for any card we want. Or we can use Sky Seal Stone with the Star Order ability. Once during your turn, you may use this ability. During this turn, if your opponent's active Pokemon V-Star or V-Max is knocked out by damage from an attack from your basic Pokemon V, take 1 more prize card. So basically what we want to do is build up, stack a ton of damage onto one of our opponent's Pokemon V, V-Max, V-Star, whatever, really V-Max or V-Star. Use Sky Seal Stone's ability to attack with Medicham V's Smash Uppercut, does 100 damage, not affected by resistance, or we can use the 100 Furious Blows on Rapid Strike Urshifu to do 150 damage, and now we're taking 3 prizes on a V-Star, 4 prizes on a V-Max, which is really, really cool. We also have, so we're placing, the whole idea of this is to place damage counters all over the place, right? The Gale Thrust does 150 if we go from the bench to the active. G-Max Rapid Flow does 120 damage to 2 of our opponent's Pokemon. Plus the Tachyon Bits damage, plus the Medicham Yoga Loop damage. I mean, we are just putting damage counters all over the place. But that might not be a lot, right? You have something like Charizard EX. Can't be damaged on the bench because it's a Terrestrial Pokemon. Has 330 health. How on earth are we supposed to deal with that? Well, we can use a few Tachyon Bits to start stacking damage. Remember, the damage counters, not damage. So we can put damage counters onto Terrestrial Pokemon when they're on the bench. So now we start to use a bunch of different Tachyon Bits abilities, start stacking 60, 80 damage onto our opponent's Charizard EX. And then we hit them with the Tactical Machine De-Evolution for just a single color energy. Devolve your opponent's Pokemon. You de-evolve all of your opponent's Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution card into their hand, which means all the Pokemon that they used Rare Candy on to put those Charizard EX and the Pidgeot EX into play, now they go back to the stage 1. They go back to the basic, actually, because they skipped the stage 1. So they go from the stage 2 to the basic. And those basic Pokemon have somewhere between 50 and 80 health almost always. So if we use a few tachyon bits here and there, we use a rapid flow here and there, then we use de-evolution, and we pull all those Pokemon, those stage 2s into their hand and knock out all the basics. Not only are we taking prize cards, but they're not able to evolve the following turn because the Pokemon are knocked out. And they used their rare candies to get those Pokemon into play. Anyway, it is a crazy good, it's so strong. 4 Professor's Research, 3 Ionos, Town Store, lets us search our deck for any tool card we want and put it into our hand. And then Pokestop, we got Rapid Strike Energy, counts as 2 energies when attached to a Rapid Strike Pokemon, so we can attach it to the Medicham or the Urshifu, and it counts as either 2 fighting, 2 water, or a fighting and a water. It's your choice. And we have 2 basic fighting energies as well. So really, really cool deck. Deck number 4 is, God, it's so annoying. Tsareena EX, Stage 2, single grass energy, Icicle Soul. Put damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon until it has 30 health remaining. Why would we want to do this? Because we pair it with the Vanillux from Paradox Rift that has the ability Frigid Room. Your opponent's Pokemon that have 40 HP or less can't attack. It doesn't matter if this is in the active or not. Doesn't matter if they're a basic. Doesn't matter if they're a stage 2 EX. Doesn't matter. If Vanillux is in play and we are able to successfully use Icicle Soul so that our opponent's active has 30 HP remaining, they can't attack thanks to Vanillux. They can't, that means they have to have another Pokemon in play that also has more than 40 HP and has the energies to attack, and they can get it into the active, and they can boss up this Vanillux. Is it doable between things like Pidgeot and Lumineon and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Mew EX has free retreat, Mew VMAX has free retreat, Lost Zone decks have a ton of escape rope options, things like that. Is it like the greatest combo in the world? Is it going to be super broken? I don't know. I think it's really annoying. You do have to set up 2 different stage 2s, and you have this other Hisuian Bravery. Eerie Cry, put 3 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it already. Well, what does Icicle Soul do? Puts damage on one of our opponent's Pokemon. One of our opponent's Pokemon, by the way. It doesn't have to be the active, until it has 30 HP remaining. This Eerie Cry does 30 damage to Pokemon that all have damage counters on already. And it's a free attack. This Icicle Soul attacks for 1. Maybe we're using 2. Trop Kick. We do 180 if we need to. But we're really attacking for 1 energy and for free. We can use Mind Bend for 380. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. But really, we're going to use Eerie Cry. For what it's worth, I love Hisuian Bravery. Really, really cool card. But let's say we can't get that stage 1 out. Well, we got this Elekid. 30 HP, free retreat, free attack. Crackling Shot does 30 damage to one of our opponent's Pokemon. Which means, again, we don't even have to attack the active. Icicle Soul lets us put 30 damage counters on one of our opponent's Pokemon until it has 30 health remaining. And then Elekid just says, Crackling Shot, I'm going to put 30 damage on it. Eerie Cry, I'm going to both of these attacks for free. I'm just going to go ahead and put 30 damage on everything that has damage counters on already. Or I'll just, snipe it from the active while it's on the bench. Crazy good. Manaphy protects our Pokemon from getting bench sniped, but the only thing here that Manaphy would protect us from is Elekid. Elekid does damage, whereas Braviary and Tsareena both put damage counters. Again, is this going to be super consistent? I don't know. We have all the same. Pokemon Search, Level Ball lets us find a Pokemon that has 90 HP or less. We got some Switch Cart, Rare Candies, Earthen Vessel. We talked about all these cards. What we didn't talk about is Panic Mask. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon that have 40 HP or less remaining. So, even if we don't have this Vanillux set up, we can still use Tsareena EX Icicle Soul, put our opponent's health down to 30, and attach a Panic Mask, and now they're not able to attack the Tsareena EX anyway. So, really cool. Irida, we talked about Boss's Orders. Pull one of your opponent's Pokemon from the bench to the active. Judge, each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws 4 cards. Cheryl is very, very good. It lets us heal all damage from our evolution Pokemon, but we have to discard all energies attached to those Pokemon. That's not really a problem. Vanilluxe, we don't attack with. Braviary attacks for free. Elekid is not an evolution Pokemon, so it doesn't apply, and it also has only 30 health, but it also attacks for free. Tsareena attacks for a single energy. We don't really care if we have to discard one. And then we have Artisan, which lets us search a deck for a basic non-rule box Pokemon, put it onto our bench, and straight from the deck, and we have 8 grass energies. Really cool deck. Still want to see it perform, but I think the concept is very, very cool. A TM de-evolution would be pretty cool in here as well. Maybe you find a way to get like an Arven in here so you can get like an item and a tool, something like that. But I think this is really, really solid. The last deck is an Electrode V deck. Hisuian Electrode V, basic grass type Pokemon, 210 health. For no energies, Tantrum Blast does 100 damage for each special condition affecting this Pokemon. So we can get some special energies on this thing. Remember that Brute Bonnet, if it has an Ancient Booster Capsule energy attached to it, we can make both active Pokemon poisoned? Well, we can go ahead, poison the active Hisuian Electrode. Now it has 1 damage counter on it. Then we go ahead and play something like Arven, which lets us search a deck for a tool and an item. The item we're going to get is going to be the Spicy Seasoned Curry. Our active Pokemon is now burned. We heal 40 damage from it. So now we got 2 status conditions on this thing. I don't think there's another way to get any other status conditions, but whatever. We're still doing 200 damage for free. Our opponent's active is poison, so now we're doing 210. Now we get this Radiant Hisuian Sneasler. During checkup, we put 2 more damage counters from poison. So now we did 210, now we're doing 230, and oh look, we're knocking out most Pokemon, basic Pokemon V and Pokemon EXs for free, for no energy. And all we needed was 3 basic Pokemon in play and 2 items, or a tool and an item. It's not that hard to do. In the meantime, we can start setting up our Bidoof to get our Bibarel. We have Elekid, so if something does run to the bench, we can go ahead and snipe it. We got Squawkabilly to, just add a consistency to find our Battle VIP Pass, our Ultra Balls, find the Spicy Seasoned Curries. We can go ahead and find our mobility options, Heavy Ball. We talked about all these cards already. Bravery Charm, the basic Pokemon this card is attached to, gets an extra 50 health. The only other cards we haven't talked about are Grusha. Draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. If none of your Pokemon have any energy attached, draw until you have 7 cards instead. Well, the Electrode doesn't need any energies to attack. Elekid doesn't need any energies to attack. We don't need to. We can draw until we have 7 cards with Grusha, and we can also thin our hand thanks to something like Ultra Ball. We can burn through some of these tools and item cards if we really, really need to. And then we have Collapse Stadium. Each player can have more than 4 benched Pokemon in play. If a player has 5 or more benched Pokemon, they discard until they have 4. The player who played this card discards first. And if more than one effect changes the number of bench Pokemon allowed, use the smaller number. So really what this is going to do is it's going to help us get something like a Squawkabilly out of play. It's going to help us get a damaged Hisuian Electrode out of play so we can deny those prizes. It's also going to disrupt our opponent a little bit because a lot of decks want to have wide benches so we can go ahead, force them to discard a Pokemon. Again, they're probably going to get rid of these Squawkabillys and Luminions and, things like that. But still, really, really cool. Again, is this like an incredible deck? I don't know. We have Klawf here, Unhinged Scissors for a double colorless, does 30 damage. If this Pokemon is affected by a special condition, this attack does 160 more, which means we're hitting for 190. But because we have this double turbo, now we're hitting for 170. However, 170 against something that's weak to fighting is still 340, enough to knock out any fighting weak Pokemon in the game for just a single energy. And again, we can always poison our opponent's active and our active with Brute Bonnet. As long as it has this Ancient Booster Capsule energy attached. It is worth noting that if, for example, we go back to this Roaring Moon deck, let's say there was 2 Ancient Booster Capsule energies in here, one attached to Brute Bonnet and one attached to one of our Roaring Moons. If the Roaring Moon in the active has an Ancient Booster Capsule energy and our Brute Bonnet has one, so we can poison the active. We poison both active Pokemon. because of Ancient Booster Capsule energy, our Roaring Moon doesn't actually get poisoned. Also, if we have Brute Bonnet in the active and it has Ancient Booster Capsule energy attached to it, you poison both active, so your opponent's active Pokemon gets poisoned, but the Brute Bonnet doesn't, because Ancient Booster Capsule energy says this Pokemon recovers from all special conditions and can't be affected by any. So if we did poison our Roaring Moon earlier in the turn, and then we Sada's Vitality or Mela, and we draw some cards, and then we find our Ancient Booster Capsule energy, when we attach the Booster Capsule energy to the Roaring Moon, it recovers from that status condition. So that's pretty cool. So this deck, again, it's really just looking to trade 2 prizers. I don't know how good this is going to be into single prize decks, because you are going to be damaging yourself with the poison and the burn. So this 210, now you're going down to 200, now you're going down to 180. 180, not a lot for a 2 prize Pokemon that's really your main attacker, but you can go ahead and put a little extra health on it with the Bravery Charm. You only have 1 of them, so it's not like you can really beef up the health of your Pokemon. Although we do have Luxurious Cape, let you get an extra 100 health. However, your opponent does take an extra prize card. But if they're going to be taking 3 prize cards or 6 prizes from the 3 Electrodes anyway, you might as well, maybe there's an opportunity for you to say, okay, you took 5 prizes because you knocked out 2 Electrodes and a Klawf, or 2 Electrodes and a Brute Bonnet. I'm going to go ahead and attach a Luxurious Cape to my last Electrode. Now it has 310, and it doesn't matter what you knock out because you only have 1 prize card remaining. So sure, if you have Boss to knock out my Squawkabilly or knock out my Sneasler, good for you, good game anyway. But I'm going to force you to, I'm going to try my best to make it as hard as possible for you. Yeah, sure, maybe you can just knock out this Elekid super easily, and that's game. But, it's an option. I think more so than the Bravery Charm. Although the Bravery Charm is cool with the Klawf, it works on Klawf, it works on Brute Bonnet to give them each 170 health, just a little bit extra health so that if you do poison them, they're not going to get immediately one-shot by a Cramorant in return. Something to think about. But yeah, I think these are all really cool decks. Again, Roaring Moon's going to be the one I play the most. I already have it built, not this exact version, but a very turbo Roaring Moon deck. So there you have 5 really cool, interesting, unique decks from Paradox Rift. I want to know in the comments below which one of these is your favorite, or is yours not on this? Are you playing something different? Are you basically just playing a Obsidian Flames deck with 1 extra card thrown in there from Paradox Rift, or how does your deck change with Paradox Rift? Is it unplayable because the meta? Is it really good? Because I just want to know your thoughts and what you're playing. So let me know in the comments below. But that's gonna do it for today. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed. Fast forward. If you did, again, like, subscribe, comment, like us, helps us YouTube. This is a good channel. Other people should watch it. That's gonna do it for us today, and I'll see you next time. I want to give a special shout out to the YouTube members Black Wins, Mike the Highest, Fernando Ortiz, Chien Pokemon, and Eric N. Thank you all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. And if you want to become a channel member, you can go ahead and click the channel member button somewhere at the bottom of the page. I'm not really sure. I haven't done it myself.